Welcome back, viewers and subscribers, to another JCP video. This is part 2 of the water cooling tutorial. I just wanted to go ahead and go an in-depth tour of how to route and manage your hoses, as well as filling your line once you have everything complete and closed off. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and open up the R&B rig, which we have up on the table right now. And I'll show you around what I did personally and what you could do to your rig. Here we go, guys. Got the side panel of the R&B rig off. Here in a second, I'm going to go ahead and get you off the tripod. I'm going to show you around the loop. I'm going to show you different fittings that I used to route the hosing the best that you can to save the pump, as well as make it look a lot better. But before we get to that, I just want to show you and touch on a couple bases of 3 or 4 points that you need to do with your loop before and after setting it up. And of course, the first starting with flushing out your radiator. You need to make sure that you flush out your radiator before you put it in your loop, as it is a machined radiator and it basically will most likely have metal shavings in it. Not 100% of the time, but you need to make sure that you at least try to get as much of it out as you can, and you need to put forth the effort to clean it. Basically, all you'll have to do is put your reservoir and your pump in a opened line. Of course, hose from your reservoir to your pump, and then hose from your pump to the radiator inlet of the radiator, and leave either the outlet open or just put a little sliver of tubing after the outlet to aim it into the sink or something. Basically, what you'll have to do is you can tilt the radiator as you're flushing it out to make sure everything is getting, you know, all the shavings and all the openings and crevices are getting water pushed through it and out of it. What you'll have to do is you'll have to feed water into the reservoir, as it is going to be coming out the other end. Again, I just want to make sure that you know that you do not want to use tap water while you're doing this. You never want to use tap water inside any hosing that you will be using later. You don't want to use tap water inside the radiator ever, even if you're going to let it dry. Always use distilled water. Using distilled water, make sure that you have no minerals, you have nothing that can produce algae after the fact. Of course, distilled water is 99% pure water. It has no minerals or anything in it. Secondly, you need to, after you flush out your radiator, leak test your loop. Set up your loop either in or out of your case with not all your components in there, just what you essentially need, which is your motherboard to mount the CPU block, or your GPUs to mount the GPU block. Make sure that you set up your loop and you put all your clamps or your compression fittings, whatever you're using. Make sure that you have water running through it for at least 30 minutes. You can do it for 12 to 24 hours, as some people say, but personally 30 minutes is enough for me, as it's not going to leak, you know, 45 minutes into it if it doesn't leak 5 minutes into it. Basically, you'll know if it's leaking right when you start it up. It's easy as that. Personally, that's me. But of course, you can 12 to 24 hours, whatever you want to leak test your loop for to make you feel safe. Now, lastly, filling up your loop when you have your loop completed. What you're going to have to do is you're going to, with your computer completely set up, all the components inside of it, you're going to have to fill the reservoir a little bit, let it bleed through the system, get through all the openings, fill it up as much as you can, and then you're going to need to start tilting your case, tilting it back and forth. This is going to make sure all the air bubbles or air pockets that are, you know, inside loops and inside your blocks and inside your radiator get pushed out and burped out through the system. Now, what that's going to do is that's going to make sure that you have 100% contact of water running through all of your components, running through all of the heat spots that needs to get the heat dissipated with the water. Make sure you're getting 100% contact with the water. You do not want any air bubbles in your system. It's going to, you know, you're going to lose performance. what I'm about to show you when I get you off the tripod is proper hosing management. You need to make sure that from point A to point B of each inlet and outlet of your system, between each part, you have the least amount of hosing that you can possibly have, not only to make it look good, but to make it perform better. If you have straight fittings and this big looped tubing throughout your system, all you're doing is creating more water and more space area for the pump to have to pump water to, and you're putting stress on your pump, and it's going to prematurely fail on you, and you're going to have to go through pumps a lot. Best way to do that is use different angle fittings, as we touched bases on in the last video. Different angle fittings such as 90s, 45s, and 30s are going to get you from point A to point B with a lot shorter tubing, make it look better, and it's going to make it perform a lot better, as well as you're going to get the water pushed through the radiator faster, which is going to make it cool faster before it gets to your CPU or your GPU or your CPU and GPU, whatever loop you have. Now, I'm just going to get you off the tripod and I'm going to show you around and give you some tips and pointers on what I did with my system. I got you off the tripod, guys. Sorry if it's a little shaky, but here, let me go ahead and walk you around real fast so you understand the terminology that I'm using when I'm using it. You have at the bottom here, you have the CPU block. That's the water block. That's actually what's being cooled. This is what the entire loop is about. You have the radiator. You have push-pull fans inside the radiator. This is a 360 by 120 millimeter fan. So it's 120 millimeters times 3. So there's 3 fans on each side. And then you have the res and pump combo. This is 1 unit up at the top here. Now, where everything starts is again back at the res and pump. It comes out of the inlet, or the outlet of the pump, excuse me. Comes out the outlet, goes into the inlet of the radiator. From the radiator, it goes from the outlet of the radiator down to the inlet of the CPU block. And from the CPU block, it comes out the outlet, back into the inlet of the reservoir. And from there to the outlet of the pump, to the radiator again, outlet of the radiator, to the CPU. That's all that happens. This is a very short loop, and it's basically how you want it. As you can see, I have different angled fittings, as this isn't a straight angled fitting. Right here's a 90, and this is a 45. I could have honestly used 2 90s, looking back on it now. And when I go to redo my loop this session, I'm going to actually be using 2 same exact 90s because it will look a lot better. And it will shorten up this hose so it's not as broad as it is right now. Basically, the different angles that I use is from the outlet of the resin pump is a straight fitting, straight barb. And from that straight barb it goes into another straight barb as it's just going across right here. And then the outlet of the radiator is a 45-degree angle barb. It's a bits power rotary fitting. From that bits power rotary fitting, excuse me, which is a 45, goes into the 90 of the inlet of the CPU block. It's a very short hose right there, from point A to point B, really fast, really quick, without excessively using water space and hosing. From the outlet of the CPU is a 45-degree angle. From that 45-degree angle, I'm going into the inlet of the resin pump with another 45-degree angle. Now, if I used a straight fitting right there, I would have had to have routed the hosing a lot more out. I would have had to have come out a lot more and look a lot fatter. Not only would it look bad, it would actually take up a lot of surface contact too. We actually, before any of this happened, we went ahead and set up the entire loop using the method of long hosing and straight barbs. From that method to my method of cutting and using angled fittings to shorten the hosing and the routing of it from point A to point B, I actually gained a 60 degrees difference. Instead of idling at around 35 with a 5.0 gigahertz overclock at 1.4 volts, I actually idle around 28 degrees Celsius after cutting and manipulating the hosing the way that I wanted to get point A to point B a lot shorter. The point that I'm trying to make is, not only does it make it look a lot better, make it look a lot tidier in the case, it actually serves a purpose. it gets the job done a lot better and it performs a lot better. It dissipates the heat as it's supposed to. There you go, guys. This is the conclusion of part 2 of the water cooling video. I hope you liked the series. If you did, go ahead, like, favorite, and subscribe for more videos such as these. Thank you very much for watching. This is Jesse from Jesse's Custom PCs out.